Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm the Technical Critic and it's time for another installment of the 12 Days of Korra. I know, I'm insanely late on this. I didn't upload when I promised, but you know what? I said I was going to do 12 days. We're going to get through this. We're going to finish this. I'm going to film as many of these as I can and stick them up there. I'm a man of my word. If you're wondering where I've been for the last few weeks, my computer broke and I've been trying to fix it, but seems like it's not happening. So I gotta upload when I can, and when I do, I'm gonna upload as much as I can. But for now, we gotta grin and bear with it. So before I begin, I'm gonna ask you to like, to favorite, to subscribe, but most importantly, leave that comment down below, and let's get started. You're probably wondering, what's this episode gonna be about? Well, this is day 4. That means it's going to be my re-review of Season 1. Now, I know what you're thinking, but you've already reviewed Season 1. I know. Don't look it up because that is an awful video. It was the first review I ever did. And to be quite frank, it sucks. I was a brand new reviewer. I'm not the expert I am right now. And I was just coming off the high of Avatar: The Last Airbender. So, quite frankly, Season 1 got a really raw deal. And to be quite honest, it's not that good a review. Please do not go look it up. It's awful. The only reason it's on this channel is so it reminds me what not to do. So, has my opinion changed? Yes, with time. A couple things have changed. And I've also become a little bit more understanding. So, let's go over it. First season, I really didn't like it the first time because, as I said, I was just coming off the high of Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I didn't get to find out what happened to all of my favorite characters. We have Aang and Zuko, they have their bro hug and then off into the sunset, and then 60 years later, or sorry, 70 years later, guess what? Aang is dead and the world has moved on. And then nothing. No backstory, no nothing, just gone. So I was understandably upset and I took it out on the first season. That being said, there's still a lot of things wrong with it. How do I feel personally about the first season of Legend of Korra? It still sucks, but for completely different reasons. Let's go through it. First of all, the characters. Let's look at Korra herself. Korra has to be the least likable character of everyone around her. She's hot-headed, she's impatient, she doesn't listen to anybody. She totally wishy-washy on all of her decisions. I mean, sure, she's a cool kick-ass fighter, but let's look at her actual character. She's not likable. Everybody, and trust me, just looking at everybody around her. I mean, between Asami, Mako, Bolin, and you guys, you know that I hate Bolin. I hate Bolin with a passion. But that's because Season 1 Bolin was so awesome. So when I say that Korra is the least likable character, I mean it. Tenzin, Stick in the Mud Tenzin, is still far more interesting than Korra. There is a bevy, just a roundabout of characters around her that are a lot better. They're a lot better written, they're a lot more well-rounded, and they're more interesting to look at because they have actual backstories and things that have happened to them. I mean, goddammit, even Asami had something to go with. I mean, Korra, she just appears on the scene. You know absolutely nothing about her. There's nothing to learn about her. It's just fight, 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 fight. Growth and some semi-growth that happened in between. So that's one reason why I feel that it didn't fare very well. Your first season, if your main character, the Legend of Korra, if Korra is completely unlikable, you're on thin ice as it is. Now, that being said, if you look at everything else, the music, the art style, it's gorgeous. But again, it does have its drawbacks in terms of the art style. When you first get to Republic City and you see it, it's amazing. But then it's like, okay, well, you know what? Here, we have Avatar: The Last Airbender, this beautiful oriental tale. They've taken that concept and they've stuck it in 1920s New York. Not the most compatible thing, but you know what? The steampunk style it kind of it kind of works in its favor, sort of. It's don't question it, just roll with it. The art style is good, but it doesn't match the tone that the show is coming off of. It really, here's the thing, despite the fact that Avatar The Last Airbender was an American-made anime, it didn't feel like an American-made anime. It had so much culture behind it. You could tell that they had really, really, really done their research. Taking Korra and then just whitewashing it so that it's, you know, American style. It's American. It takes place in New York City. I mean, come on. The Statue of Liberty is just replaced with a statue of Aang, and literally everything else is just New York City. From the 1920s jazz music, the way the streets are designed, the grids, everything. It looks like New York. And I'm not saying it's bad necessarily, but you have to understand, you're setting the story in this world that's already been built. If you understand where I'm coming from, so you're already familiar with these cultures. You just say, okay, now we're going to focus on America. It's kind of dishonest to what the franchise was originally about. If you understand where I'm coming from. Moving on from there, in terms of the art style, everything was beautiful, but we were stuck in the city. And here's the thing, when you see the city once, when you see like the alleyways and the dark streets, that's fine the first time you see it. But then it starts to become repetitive, and it's a lot of gray on gray. There's not a lot of color there's not a lot of variation, and the background gets boring very quickly. And then that really then forces you to start to focus on who your new characters are. If you remember in the previous series, and even within this series itself, once we got the ball rolling, we started to move around from place to place, and it got interesting because you got to see all these new places and how these people live and explore all of that. Just one or two quick sentences there, and it built up the world, and it really made it feel like this place was alive and kicking. Having it take place in the city all the time, it really doesn't lend itself to that world building. And in terms of a story, world building is just as important as character building. Those are my honest feelings. I honestly believe that with my heart and soul, you need to build the character to match the world, and the world to match the character. The two of them have to feed off of each other. Otherwise, you just have set pieces on a stage, and the show should really be a lot different than that. And finally, the one thing that I think really brings down the series, season 1, it has to be the love story. Ooh, this love story is so poorly written. It's not good. It really is. I've never seen anything that was so shoehorned in just so that it was almost as if they were reading off a list of demands that they've been given by the network, that said, okay, you have to have this, you have to have this, you have to have this. Boy has to meet girl and fall in love and blah, blah, blah. And it was so conniving and contrived, and it didn't feel organic at all. It felt absolutely forced, and it completely wasted everybody's time. Because from the moment you saw Korra and Mako, you knew the two of them were going to be a couple, because Korra is completely gaga over him, and even betrays his own brother in order to get with him. Think about that. She went on Mako made it clear to her that he didn't want to date her because he was dating a Sami. And then she goes and then the brother basically comes up for the rebound, and Bolin is sweet. In season 1, Bolin is a pretty decent fellow. He's silly, he's a little bit naive, but you know what? He's a good guy. You can tell. This is the kind of guy who stands up for what he believes in, blah, blah, blah. So he's like, look, you're the best, blah, 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 blah. I think we should go out and have a good time. Korra agrees. And then you have a beautiful little montage of the two of them going on dates, having fun, doing all the stuff that couples do. And you know what? It's like, hey, this is a great start to this relationship. Sure, it's not It's not taking the long road to build that Avatar The Last Airbender did, but you know what? It's good. And then what happens in that same episode? She betrays him by kissing his brother. What the... Look, I'm not a teenage girl, and I've never longed to be. And while I may have hung out with them, I've never really nailed down what the mindset is. Can someone explain to me, is it acceptable to kiss the brother, the older brother of the boy that you're dating, because you liked him first and then you rebound? I see how convoluted and complex that is. This is why men do not understand women. There are rules in there, but I'm pretty sure she broke several of them. I mean, and then the whole thing with Asami getting jealous of Mako because Mako is concerned about Korra because Korra has been kidnapped by the people that they're fighting against. You know, that's it was so out of place. Just the feelings that some people that they gave some of the characters just so they could advance this plot to its logical conclusion was absolutely awful, and the things they did to their characters was completely and utterly unforgivable. I mean, let's look at Asami. Asami is the best character in the show. The fans and the writers agree. Asami is probably the best character in the entire show. She's arguably the best character. She is the best character. We have her, sweet, naive Asami. She starts dating Mako. Mako betrays her with Korra. Kind of. I mean, not really, but almost. And then what happens is Korra gets kidnapped. She gets into trouble. They have to go and rescue her. Asami is suddenly extremely jealous of Korra because Mako, who is her friend, is worried about her well-being. It's so petty and out of character that it completely ruins the character. And on top of that, then when you have, at the very end of the season, Mako goes and decides to betray Asami and kiss Korra, and I guess they broke. I'm not sure if they broke up before that happened, but it looks like they didn't. So he runs out, he kisses Korra, and then he breaks up with Asami in like the same week that she's lost her dad, which is extremely heartless. It's just so insane. The rest of the season is pretty great. I mean, the writing, the story that they're doing was pretty good up until like episode 6, between 6 and 8. That's where the writing started to become a little bit sloppy, and they started just tossing things to the wind randomly. All this stuff about Amon and his backstory being montaged in 10 to 15 minutes by his brother, who's also it's so fantastic and way out there that it's really Deus Ex Machina. They're really reaching. They're really stretching to try to get you guys to believe everything that they want to shove down your throat. It gets really bad near the end. But you know what? Considering that they only thought they were going to have one season, I'm not going to give them a pass, but I understand somewhat. It doesn't make it good. It's just I understand why it's bad. It still is bad. I understand. It's like if somebody serves you a cupcake and you bite into it and it's full of salt and they're like, oh, you know what? Somebody went and switched my sugar bowl with my salt bowl and I must have put too much salt in it. You understand why it's salty. It's just you're like, that doesn't make this better. It's still awful to eat. Okay, the ending is still completely out there, and Deus Ex Machina. On top of that, the ending does not flow well with the rest of the season. I understand that at the end of season 2, Korra loses her attachment to her previous avatars, but once she gets that attachment to her previous avatars in season 1, she doesn't use it at any time. She doesn't ask Aang for help whenever there's dark spirits. She's basically forced by the fire sages and a magical pool to connect with the first avatar. I mean, they set up so much stuff and then they just abandoned it. It's kind of a hot mess, and that's why I do not think season 1 is very good. They had some great scenes. The villainy was amazing. The idea of taking away people's bending, great. Was it explained very well? No, and gotta subtract points for that. Backstory of the villain, gotta subtract points for that. Main character not being likable, gotta subtract points for that. You see where I'm going? Love story, Of all things, you know what? If they had removed the love story, the shoehorn love story, this probably would have been a passable season. It probably would have made it a lot better to bear than if it was. Then instead of this very high school jealous nonsense that we were forced to put up with, it objectively ruins how the series functions, and I can't in good conscience give any of it a pass. But these are my feelings on the first season. This is my re-review of the first season. This is what I thought worked, and this is what I thought broke the season. I thought the dynamics between everyone was kind of okay as friends. The relationship element really threw it off. Everything else, kind of amazing. The probe ending was a little bit filler. We did get a lot of filler with the probe ending, but you know what? I'm okay with that. It was understandable for how Korra was going to train. It matches her personality style. So that I get. A lot of the stuff I get and I'm willing to give a pass on, but some of it just absolutely takes you out of it. And I do feel that with a little bit more time, a lot better writing, and really more episodes and more input, this could have been something great. Fact is, these episodes are each 1 hour long, and that is both a blessing and a curse, because it means that, first of all, season 1 is the longest season of Avatar: the Legend of Korra. So far as the 4 seasons go, each season has 12 episodes, but season 1 has 24 episodes worth of content in it. However, each of those is basically a 2-part episode, so it's kind of stitched together in a way that doesn't allow for more versatile storytelling. Other than that, that's basically all I have to say. If they split the episodes up, if they'd done some better writing, I do feel that this could have been good. It could have been better. I honestly do feel that this could have been better than Avatar: The Last Airbender. If they had all the elements were there. They had all the ingredients necessary to make an excellent piece of work. They just didn't follow through on it in a way that was advantageous to their cause. But that has been my technical critique. Day 4, finished. I can't believe it. We're getting there. We are getting there. We're putting it out. We will get to the end of this thing. I promise you I'm going to film 5 and 6 very shortly. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 12 days worth of content here. I promise I can get it all out to you. And I will. So, until next time, I will see you in the review.